is one of the female cancer right now. I saw that the last particles about window gradient getting active to abnormal because due to the last between that pretty good female and that female surface that female. Like I'm just independently the reason for lack of madness right now being drawn towards that would be most likely due to that this that abnormal level of that active stage at the last part because of the stadium would be far right now would be far greater than that the amount of that than that when that's the last time that Kubernetes and that go had I think I don't exactly don't had four of against like Kubernetes in like the past while Kubernetes had like transformed into like Kubernetes form and everything like back then like the Galar particles the Galar particles that the Kubernetes might have absorbed to be able to like transform into that Kubernetes form might have been nowhere near to that the current levels of that the abnormal current levels of that electromagnetic intensity of the electromagnetic that's like active about Windows stable right now. It's solely within the platform like because you know and that the genome of the human cell that we might be the basis of new method failure. So like that in like the past while Zashins and Zaman then that had like together thought of and basically had to teach it that the eternal love. Back then like the eternal government might have been fighting at like a total disadvantage and might have not been able to like that then fight at its like full potential and full power might be the basis definitely by the strength. So like right now so like I'm pulling up the back then once they go had captured that the Ethernet as well and while Go had given the Ethernet to Leon by saying that once like Go gets stronger like Ethernet might accept so like Go like I'm definitely since like Leon has well had recently reviewed the Leon that like a hash that is Ethernet just that often used to go out of control and everything. So I'm just referring like due to this reason my presbyterian operations that like there might have been existed that oxygen within internet if I wasn't being caught by like the possible by so even though like that due to and it might have been due to that internet is like obviously go not only go but even like the great and the child in the on like extremely weak and totally unworthy of things that's capable it doesn't mean my comprehension. So that's yeah, from that point of view, that it might be operating within that time. It might have had that situation within that time, and it might from this point of view, it might have been operating that actually it was solely due to that with fighting that against that session and counter that. Even it like it might form that and like an extreme disadvantage of that situation with like it not being able to like absorb that the total extent of that the particle that is needed to that fight against that full potential that I don't think the racing top is winning the season by Russian and Rams and might be another line that it might be that situation and might have been well fully aware of this. So like it might have had this like absolute frustration within it while trapped in like the Pokeball and while being trapped in like the lab of that Magnolia as well. At the same time, it might have been the case that we might so that after all this time passing that it might have been one like due to like the collision between that Pikachu's remove as well as like the G-Max jump of Leon like G-Max attack. So for attack like causing like abnormal levels of like the spike in like the stellar particles happening above Windows scaling like at that point that because the negative the trap in that the lab of Sonia might have seen might have actually been able to sense that and might have seen that and like it's that ultimate chance to be able to be able to like not only turn into that absolute eternal form from Windows scaling by absorbing all that abnormal levels of the lab particles but also like to reach that perfect full potential and full power processing that absolutely powerful form of like fully fledged like form of like eternal form unlike back in like the past when it had turned into like the same form in like the past and got captured. Maybe along the lines that eternal might have felt and this might be the sole reason for like eternal right now showing up to that thing of experience. So like I'm right now with honest today like I'm like eternal will be absorbing all that abnormal levels of stellar particles in that sky about window stadium and turning into its like actually full potential, full power, fully powered light, which are my external for just let them into scenarios that are and my personal impressions for Ethernet is like it might be like totally about one that might want to totally always be free and not be captured and tracked as like um, and to have an honor and to like obey that an honor to be trapped in a possible would be like the last thing that Ethernet might want. So like everything might be a Pokemon that might totally want to be really and to not get owned and take orders from any owner of the trapped in that. Pokeball. Like Eternatus might be a Pokemon that might want to like totally live freely and roam around like and live freely and have like most like the world in a free and joyful manner. Might see what like Eternatus might want. It's definitely that freedom might be what like might be yearning for. Or like not like I feel that freedom from Eternet's point of view, electromagnetic might be tolerating that act. For Eternet's still actually small that freedom might have been so due to electromagnetic not being strong enough, might be along the lines that even in electromagnetic form that solely due to that lacking in strength might have been like the sole reason for like electromagnetic losing to like Dashing and Downside and getting trapped and captured into the possible might be along the lines like electromagnetic might have felt and even to the person might be thinking so like electromagnetic plan right now would be to that right now take advantage of the situation to like turn into its like ultimate fully powered like it might form. And that point it might think that at that point it would be like the strongest Pokemon to exist at that point. And at that point, like it remains will be really great that at that point like absolutely no one will be able to like stop it or like chase after it or even capture it at that point. At that point, like it remains will be believe that it will be totally invincible. And that way it remains will be able to attain that absolute freedom without having anyone like chasing after us, trying to like track it or capture it to get about it. Again, I'm the using that we yet like I'm doing right now for like the scenario to be that it might reflect without a great level that right now from all that normal there are particles in the sky and that right now turning into like fundamental form. And at that point felt like I'm like like noticing that Ash and Leon like those two people was like part of that, who played that role in that weakening tournaments and that getting, even though it was like Rocket and Zamfed that had really even communicated Ethernet is back then. Still, the fact that it was like Ash and Go that had brought Rocket and Zamfed back to that battlefield and using like the soul and shield and which also the fact that like Leon as well, I think that soon right before that try to like fight that Hidden like, and even though Leon failed like and so that definitely all those memories of like Hidden will be coming rushing in and but that absolute desire to like get revenge on like as and Leon for like getting it matches for playing their roles in that into getting it match trapped into like about the world and that and like on right now for like it matches like totally on turning it into its like ultimate that it is like supermassive form right now. Like the scenario that and that kind of it matches will be on a simple matches will be totally feeling absolutely off on another asset like so select the strongest Pokemon right now. And basically at that point like the complaint deciding to like get revenge on like Ash and Leon and trying to like eliminate like the scenarios that are so like at that point I was hoping like Ash and Leon the black those things that are right now there's like Ash and Leon probably that fighting uh, with the Pokemon. And I'm looking kind of clear right now with like the abnormal levels of like there are particles and resulting in like along with like Leon's like Charizard who's right now in its like Max form. And I'm looking like right now that the time limit for like the Gigantamax transformation as well would be in like an unlimited kind of like a scenario right now for like the time being due to like the abnormal levels of spike in like the particles and all that the indoor experience like now so it's to be like a temporary until that abnormal levels of the particles in like the sky fades away, which understand like will be happening after like a while. Maybe after like repeating like the command like until that point I'm like this whole storm of like abnormal levels of like particles about like the on sky below windows there will be remaining like within our level. Until that point I'm going like the chance of remaining movements like giant MX form as well as like this abnormal levels of that the particles on the right now just the created level you're sitting in that and Pikachu turning into it's like I think dynamite form. It's like within our I think that Pikachu has like only dynamite form. You gotta think so that that Pikachu has been in that way turning to and to that Pikachu's like dynamite form. It's like generic that way like a dynamite Pikachu was the team of like the dynamite Pikachu and like the giant like chapter of Neo like facing off against like the huge eternal at its like so it was like the fight that I was right now happening. So I was great again. And then that fight I was putting like the team of like team X chapter and like a dynamic Pikachu initially only were for undefeated that well eternal is usually like the scenario without left second for flashing or then that is like the scenario that I'm playing. And because like by now like both Leon as well as might have been trained might have had their own journey of like their secret training leading to this point that like I was in the present like both beyond as well as might have faced like events of bigger level despite it's definitely level training. And also with like their absolute such an absolute need to like fail well as for like what they will be willing as to like then having that absolute need to like stop just that uncontrollable government before destroyed from the threat of being destroying like the Galar region that to save the Galar region that that will be along the line action will be on it feeling and thing. So like that way that need causing them to like even break themselves and their Pokemon to like even break the limits and up even rise for the things like that way this time without even that second of that it can and like the DMAX just of Leon as well as like the Dynamax Pikachu or as like using that combined strength that maybe like throw for combined attack for attack like that then conveniently for an indicated like they recognize before it recognize internet and that way it recognize turning back into this like for the internet form. And at that point I'm referring that first to be Leon that will be at that point will be capture internet is like the scenario that I'm referring and multiple and also going to manage the questions that I'm so different that for like governments right now governments they like putting things to consequent transform into like it government settlement form. But it's like absolute pro power. Like at that point, I'm like governments would be also would be having that at one of like goals like of that which would be the main while I'm doing the main goal will be the freedom that I'm still government would be also having that secondary ultimate goal as well to totally get revenge on like Dutch and exams and the after like to like the form that it will be also having that goal to find if even if like Dutch and exams and that doesn't show up for to that totally find Dutch and exams and that and have a rebatted and that way to totally or a city that is quite the exams and Dutch and like totally offer it and get back like it's not this like lost ego and pride and then to that and then to that prove that dominance and basically access to that basically it to make itself feel that's like actually prove itself that it's like has really strong spot of favorites and then to like travel away and like and attain its like freedom at that point and to like travel away free and to gain that freedom might be like the actuality of that what like internet would be right now flying and things as for like trying to like achieve right now that we will be but like I'm saying that all that goals of that internet is number different still in the map different that like to be talking back for internet where like even without like results of like the content showing up and you can like even Ash and Leon with their chapter, even chapter, and that dynamic spiritual self that managing to that defeat that pick up ultimate through power that like in the scenario that I'm right. And that way, like I'm considering that through that defeat, which I'm considering for like for a tournament is to happen like at that point, like I'm considering that maybe for a tournament it would be feeling as a like basically would be letting go of it like ego at that point of like absolute desire for like freedom and basically internet at that point like I'm living like finally deciding that like finding anything along the lines of like it's not like strong Pokemon to ever exist and that's why it got repeated even if it's like those kind so like at that point, I was even once like it could be getting captured by Neon. Like at that point, I was even like internet is like from that point on deciding to like basically do trust in like supporting what I'm basically to have Neon as it's like on. Maybe I'm going to bring like happy ending where like even though that it might just like you go to it's getting correct and internet still like okay even after like the repeat like internet is like once like Neon only the topic grade level to once again bringing out that internet problems that Pokemon like you want to be totally shown that absolute love and compassion towards like internet and that genuine care, taking that showing this like genuine care and concern towards like internet to and like something like you want to be attempting totally to that make internet just like would be approaching internet as in like that friendly man up to like turn to internet into like that absolute good friend of like Leon and that way like I'm looking like meant at that point maybe feeling comfortable in that having like Leon and it's like on up to that point. And basically that way like things like ending up with like a happy ending for like Shimmeris at that point. Even those maps at that point won't be having like freedom and would be under like the captivity of like Leon's skill and with like maps maybe at that point being able to like find happiness in being like the Pokemon of that Leon. There's like also like feeling with the scenarios that I was throwing in. So like the clean and the election right now look like it is a matter of like showing up to the stadium only to that just say that the region that comes to the league. Right now, so like I'm just friend of league that the battle between and Leon that we continuing. And so like I'm doing like the battle between like as like Leon's job that will continue from this point on like the scenario that so from this point on I'm just from like as already having used to like senior and I'm from that with like due to like solely due to this like interference of like it on like I'm doing like to Leon and his lad, C-Max Chapter would say by now would have lost sincerely that the black that internet is like topic right now remove that like abnormal levels of lag color particles in like the sky above window shading. So like I'm going that remote instantly like I'm doing that Leon's like C-Max Chapter might have also lost its like G-Max form and straight where come back to that chapter like normal form. That would have been what might have happened. So like that way Leon and this like Chapter might have had like an instant disadvantages like to Dragon Bar like instantly Leon's like GMAX Chapter might have lost its like GMAX form instantly. Might have that way had like a total reduction in like the total time in its like Leon's like GMAX Chapter force right now stay at its like GMAX form. Might have been what might have happened is definitely very much so like right now before like the battle between like Leon and that only continue and basically that but like the sudden taking away of like the DMX form of like the someone using of like your jobs of like DMX form and I'm different like Pikachu it being a fight between like a normal Pikachu and like a normal chapter. So like the scenario that in which like Ash and this like Pikachu uh totally that using like normal attacks with like Ash by now having max used up all of its like gimmicks while Leon had only used his like Gigantamax gimmick at all, and that too, right now, it's specifically about the perimeter will be getting that up shot in like the time limit in which like the Gigantamax gimmick of that chart shot, in its like duration of that staying in that gimmick form. That cut shot will be happening right now. It's happening as well. So like even while Leon alone like using a single gimmick alone while as some use all three of gimmick like even that single gimmick of like Leon like Gigantamax as well getting that so so it's cuts off in its like time limit. Just like the scenario that where that extreme disadvantage right now happening for Leon as that's the value between like Leon's like normal job as like normal face happening right now. It's like the scenario that I'm putting in just like I'm also putting like as to right now totally without inspirating at all that for indicating Leon's job out of like the scenario that I'm right. So definitely and then I'm also bring like Leon's final Pokemon like the stop when it would be sent out and even at that point I'm also bring like Leon definitely even while having company of like Leon at that point, still not using any of the Slack gimmicks. And even though Leon could not totally use Slack, the Zemo gimmick to like launch a Zemo attack from like company, to increase the chances of like victory against like Ash Pikachu and but maybe for two possibilities, maybe one possible scenario that I'm bring it for like by the time Ash is like Pikachu. But like the battle right now, Tony Parties will be continuing like by the time Ash Pikachu will be defeated, like Leon's like normal type jobs or like and like Ash Pikachu will be getting even more exhausted badly exhausted that like Leon would be at that point. If you are completing that basically that the victory is like up and forth Leon at that point. To get along with like Leon also having that company. So like Leon's really sending out with that company and with that so into that our confidence like Leon deciding not to use like the Zemo of like company against like exhausted and that resulting in like as in like exhausted people still managing to like pull through and that eventually with like some sort of like an ultimate uh, even though it won't be the same mode that approach needs to that have to win that to have that because that player has gained that with and be able to like achieve this like wall of becoming that absolute performance and then like play like reduce so they like doing this absolute everything into its like mind attack and that was just like find some kind of like an attack or like some robot attack like I was like into which like we do begin it's like absolute everything like into like okay taking out like Leon's property. So like that way due to like Leon's all confidence like Leon losing to as Leon's property as well losing to like as is like the eventual one of the scenario one possibility that I'm also as for like how I could be able to here. The other possibility that I'm considering is for like the taking into my consideration for like Leon probably decided to use take advantage of like the remove gimmick of that his company and that and that the reason that I'm considering for like the possibility as for why that would be that I'm considering would be more likely due to that Leon probably would be fearing like the possibility of that. And even if that Leon use like swap money like Zemo, like basically Leon probably losing to Ash. So like I'm talking like maybe initially Leon might have when Leon had told Ash that basically that Ash can that like Ash can use all three of that gimmicks of like Zemo Mega Evolution as well as like Gigantamax and Dynamax. Like at that point, I was thinking like maybe Leon might have started off the battle saying like Pikachu would be like using all three of that the games because like Leon as well, even while being like the first great undefeated champion, like Leon as well might have never not even won for a battle in his life. While Leon would have used like all three of like the gaming system in everything. So like Leon might have and even while Leon had been produced to be like enough of just the probably was like that again as it's just something to my preemption to do like daily to that as reminding Leon that as like man of some and everything that made myself that and maybe like that is like myself somewhere there like myself reminded Leon so much of that Sonya fact when that Leon and Sonya got like extremely young and basically once first battle in his life might have been against like Sonya in this like Leon in that very first battle itself might have lost so it might have been what might have happened. But like I'm saying Sonya uh, that way like I'm saying Sonya Leon might have tried back and basically like Sonya at that point might have comforted Leon and might have given Leon like the confidence that like Sonya might have that was the friendship between like Leon might have been formed. And Sonya it might have been Sonya that might have trained Leon back then. So sort of through Sonya's training, like Leon might have been a quick learner. So like, and like in that second battle itself, like Leon might have the battle itself, like Leon might have defeated Sonya. But since then, like Leon might have not lost not even a single battle. Like when that way, solely due to that close friendship that Sonya had toward like Leon. Like it might have been Sonya that might have first got according Leon as this like undefeated trainer. And basically, like Leon became like the champion. It might have been Sonya that might have earned that like title of like Leon being this like undefeated champion, and that Leon might have been able to like maintain that title to like the very and might have been what might have happened in the past that he was trained. So like Ash might be reminding Leon so much of that Sonya stuff way back then when Leon had like lost to that Sonya. Was definitely one of might be the reason for like Leon being so south before Leon playing against Ash. So like I'm just for like the other possibility that they might be creating were like and so to bring for like Leon not taking advantage of like Properties remove uh, in like the final battle between like Ash Pikachu versus like the opponents, like in the scenario that I'm doing. And the reason I thought about possibly that I'm explaining to be due to like Leon totally fearing like the due to like this whole as reminding Leon of that Sonya like and Leon will be still having that absolute trust and fear within him of like him losing that absolute title that he has really maintained as of everyone knows that as like Leon being this like undefeated person even though Leon might probably be that as for like Leon being the undefeated champion, even while after like Leon becoming champion, like Leon might have never not even lost in the fight. And still other than like the people like the public in like Vela who are all fans of Leon as like and thought Leon with undefeated champion and everything like they would always think that Leon has never lost not even single battle in his life. And that would be that absolute light that like would be making Leon insecure even through like and they found it's definitely even Leon right now because of cheering like the positive like Leon eventually losing to like Ash in this like current championship battle. And at that point for like Leon to have that like damage or reduction in his like whole image that Leon has like built up as like this great strong like undefeated champion. Once like if like Leon loses to Ash in like the champion final like once that image will be finally getting destroyed so that like even if that's an eventual worst case scenario with Leon might not be costing so like even if such a scenario worst case scenario that happens like at that point like should have at least like the people in the lab who are all like, fans of like Leon that point for like the fans of like Leon to at least have something to say along the lines of like basically at least like in like the battle between Ash and Leon like Ash was only able to like defeat Leon solely due to like Ash using all three units of like the Mega Evolution as well as like Gigantamax while Leon had only used his like Gigantamax like being alone like even while Leon had like only like the Leon himself had that in his like battle against has like Leon as well had the same opportunity as like as to like doing all three of the like yet like Leon not using that would be like uh a conscious decision that Leon might have taken to that only that way to be able to like to make that absolute fake excuse of like a justification, to create that fake excuse of like a justification, which like Leon might be only hoping that like the public, like all the fans and like that are like of Leon would be like of making one like Leon, if like the worst case scenario happens and Leon would be losing to act in like the finals. is like my commentary on it. Because like in actually deep down, Leon as well might have been probably the friendly wanted to like use all three of this like given like as and might have wanted to like see how it would feel like to like use all three things in like a successful battle. But like I'm free might have been this like fear of like Leon of like basically losing to Ash and with that way getting like whole false and dark image of like this undefeated champion image getting rushed to like the point of like basically Leon totally losing all of his like fans, the majority or like the entire section puts like fans and followers like there might be this absolute fear of like Leon. So like to like say as much of his like image, even if like the worst case scenario of Ash defeating Leon even happened, like to save as much of his like image as he can and to be able to like retain as much of his like followers and fans as he can, like Leon might have played such a strategy of like deciding to like this only the single gimmick of like uh Jagadamax, Jagadamax, of like Jagadamax itself, might have been like the other possible reason for like don't my preparation, totally predict like even in the case of like Leon's like final Pokemon like Stormania. Totally the reason for like my preparation that like Leon won't be at all using taking advantage of that review mode of that storm, but it's like it's a scenario that I'm preparing and my preparation. Yeah, so like Leon preparation right now for like Leon right now falling back to like the Pokemon chapter and basically sending out and Gigantamax and like Squawk against like actually Gigantamax just as well. I'm sure people think might be due to that absolute fear that might be even more great within like Leon right now. It's definitely my great because like I think that basically it was like Leon himself that they had like against like as of Pikachu once like Access down to the like laptop don't had basically didn't fall back to like Squawk electricity and initially and basically send out is like eight Pokemon charge up and Gigantamax to charge up to have that ultimate Leon's like ace Pokemon versus like actually ace Pokemon battle. But like I'm wondering what might have happened to you. Like Leon might have only or confidently that then felt that basically Leon's like charge up in its like ace and ultimate like Gigantamax form would definitely crushing as to might be along the lines of like in an off confident manner like Leon might have felt. And it might be obvious to like Leon that then that like would be definitely I stick it to actually would only take advantage of that quickly move gimmick which like Ash still has left. And that way like so would be totally using it like remove gimmick would be one thing that Leon might have been absolutely obvious for like Leon definitely might have been. Yeah, like Leon might not only or confidently felt that basically straight even then like the giant size like gigantic sorts of ace Pokemon, more powerful Pokemon that Leon who it only crushing and defeated like had to be along the lines of that absolute or confidence that Leon might have had. But like I'm thinking that one like Leon's like Max Chopper has used like his ultimate powerful move of like G-Max Wildfire and still it was able to be like obstructed and stopped by as if like Pikachu's like full move. Like at that point I was thinking that might have been such an absolute shock for Leon, and Leon might have thought he'd never seen that coming. That for like as like tiny Pikachu to like remove to like be strong enough to be able to like stop even like the ultimate G-Max Charizard like G-Max Wildfire mode. Might be one thing that like Leon might have may not have seen coming. That he might think so like at that point like Leon might have only felt that absolute fear within deep down within him of like basically in like it might be roughly Leon like Charizard that might be having that absolute fan following among the like fans like among like all the sport one of Leon it would be like that similar sport one chapter of Leon that would be having like the two fan following because like I'm looking at like Leon chapter might have uh it would just be like Leon being like this like known as the undefeated champion but like the reason for like Leon's chapter having all the huge following as well might be also due to like maybe Leon's chapter as well might have never not even once that the public might have never not even once witnessed like he won't stop the ever losing in a bad level just like they won't have to get and that might be the case. And this might be the reason for like Leon stop being seen by the public as like maybe even like like the strong Pokemon in this game by the public in like the last that who would be all fans of like Leon and stop and like they would want to see like you like and not only Leon as like undefeated champion but like Leon starts out as well like undefeated Pokemon as well. That's definitely might be the reference. So like definitely once like as Pikachu in this like tiny box that is like the like so easily able to like block and defend against like Leon's like ultimate G-Max like wildfire move, which as well with like no Pokemon until now no opponent of like Leon until now might have been able to like successfully obstruct to the extent of that the ultimate like G-Max wildfire move that G-Max to that extent that Pikachu had like defended against using like Pikachu's might have been also the case that Lee might have been able to like definitely Leon might have felt extremely insecure at that point and might have had that abject fear that basically once like once like it's a man had left and basically at that point Leon might have instantly realized how like the dynamic plan has like once again got in charge. So who never more and Leon having used like the dynamic then it might be along the lines like Leon might have instantly seen so like at that point like Leon might have probably got insecure and afraid that basically it seems like the dynamic plan just like once again charged like so as would definitely be once again able to make this like CMAX and Jimmy can once again will be able to like turn his like into like CMAX form. So like at that point like a Pikachu who is like very tiny size that was able to like survive like the CMAX chapter attack as well as was able to like defend again using that Pikachu like remove that if that very same Pikachu right now once like the battle will be continuing would be in its like CMAX form and fighting off against like the GMAX chapter at that point like the possibility of like ultimate popular GMAX chapter undefeated GMAX chapter or like Leon getting it like image for a like Leon like the image of like Leon is ultimate chart that image as well getting destroyed by getting the defeated pocket of time by as like the next that might have been that actually that might have the ground within like even fight within like Leon even to a great extent so like trying to direct to fear and security and the different like might be the soldering for like Leon right now totally deciding to that very same Leon who had switched out his like for money to solely to have that ultimate ace Pokemon fight between like Ash Pikachu and like like Team Charizard like that very same Leon right now switching once again switching back to like Charizard instead of Giant once again Giant and the match is like Charizard that very same Leon right now to be told out of the fear that he would be like switching out his like Charizard and sending out his like Score Bunny once again and basically even deciding to like Giant Max's Score Bunny and also like Space Pokemon Charizard will be totally according to like Leon's plan to totally perfect that image of undefeated image which like this like Charizard could be having. So by like having like the G Max for money do maximum damage to like the G Max Pikachu and to like wear off like the G Max Pikachu and to also have like the time limit for like the G Max form of like that Pikachu be over so that like to have for money until that point to be able to like hold on and do as much damage to like Pikachu as it can so like the especially with like Pikachu's like performance like against like everyone's like G-Max stuff that the only probably have that fear and maybe probably fearing quickly seeing like a lot of like even G-Max company in opinion which like should be has to be like G-Max Pikachu. So like the only intent behind like Leon right now something out with like company and like Giant Max it would be to like store time as well as like do as much damage to and exhaust stuff and like has to like G-Max Pikachu as much as it can so that like by the time Pikachu will be defeating Spot One G-Max properly like this will be what like going to scenario that like Leon right now seeing and expecting for that by then like to have Pikachu lose this like Gigantamax powerful Gigantamax form as well as get exhausted, even more exhausted to the point that basically at that point, Joan will be straight away once again to be able to like send back his like Charizard into like the battlefield. And in that is once again that once that ability that normal says Charizard and the normal says Pikachu, that point will be happening. Like at that point for like Leon to like perfect to like image and possibly might be possibly even and defeat that as a Pikachu with like Leon Charizard. And that way like for Leon to like defeat as while being able to like perfect like not only his image but also of like the image of it like his Charizard that which as well will be having such a huge fan follower. This would be like the reason for like Leon right now sitting out like with like his Pokemon Charizard and bringing out his like Scorpion and even going to the extent of like Gigantamax like Scorpion against like Ash of like Human right now. It's definitely my very impression right that also my three impressions that like Leon right now for me. So it's going to be pretty down secure and afraid of like as Pikachu. Maybe Leon will be also considering it because we get like has Pikachu, G-Max Pikachu right now. Not only defeating like the G-Max company, but also like even though by then like Ash like G-Max Pikachu either would be having it like G-Max time limit be over or like even if like Ash Pikachu ends up like still having a tiny bit more of like the time limit of the like G-Max form like at that point for like Leon's like normal phase stuff that to be able to like store enough time to like turn to have like the time limit for like remake to be over. And at that point for like Leon, even if like basically has to like Pikachu like if they are Leon stuff are not able to like defeat as Pikachu still at that point to at least end for Leon to like ensure that like the image that gets built up and like Charizard has built up doesn't get properly destroyed, but at least ensuring that this through Pikachu, through like person that Pikachu will be having after like fighting off against like Storm, at least like Leon at his like Charizard and being able to like please draw in like the final showdown Charizard will Pikachu that will be what like Leon will be attempting, and that way to at least have like the ace. Uh, that is Charizard's like athlete image and popularity not get thoroughly crushed by just Pikachu would be what would be also like about other positive items for like what Leon would be right now attempting by switching out his like Charizard and sending out his like Stormtrooper right now and dynamizing Stormtrooper right now. Most definitely my consider. Also the play about the mega frames and so this is the mega frames that like even though like Leon right now Giant Amazing with like running against like as like Giant Pikachu that and still in that final battle against like Leon like the next final battle against like Leon chance of versus like I think this one that will be happen still but like on the mega frames and for the thing definitely for like Leon to like still neither use like the Geno gimmick on chapter or like the Mega Evolution on like your chapter. Like they don't doing neither of this to that due to like that atmosphere being an insecurity being present within like Leon. So that like if like the scenario happens and Leon you can to like as that at that point like Leon will be having an excuse at least like the this like even though Leon won't be like planning on like saying it like I'm like Leon will be hoping that the public will be like talking about that excuse that basically even while absolutely no one had basically banned Leon from like using or like told Leon to like not use like even like the referee had like something allowed not like Ash but also Leon to like use all three of like the gimmicks that Leon consciously not necessarily only to like stick to like just like the Gigantic gimmick and only to something like a question of Leon just to have that then the public would be having an excuse to like say that it was solely due to that Leon only using a single gimmick while Ash had used all three gimmicks. Like, this would be like Leon's plan, hidden agenda and plan. So definitely even at the worst case scenario to protect to desperately protect like the image some of like those fans and public. So definitely my opinion and that's sitting on the like the story line but like even in like the point like Leon access G-Man 22 would be finally continually repeating like Leon's like G-Man for money that even in next that final Jata versus Pikachu that like Leon won't be using like neither Luzino gimmick nor like the Mega Evolution gimmick on like Leon's Jata. Definitely my opinion so that's sitting on. Okay, so like the Leon story I'm touching right now as for like Sundar is like G-Man and like Fireball versus like Pikachu is like G-Man's World Rush attack. Like I'm just putting like the scenario to be like as like the Fireball will be approaching like the G-Man Pikachu and different like the World Rush attack like and different would be landing on like the Fireball and then different like the G-Man Pikachu being able to like control that Fireball and should be at that point surrounded by like the electricity and the thunder of like Pikachu's like wall crash move, G-Max wall crash move, and like Pikachu controlling that fireball with like Pikachu's thunder and basically will be pushing that fireball surrounded by like all that thunder towards like Sport Bunny, towards the G-Max Sport Bunny, and like that huge fireball covered with like crashing onto like Sport Bunny and back and crashing onto like G-Max Sport Bunny. Like the scenario that I'm doing, and with that single attack itself, like I'm to the back the G-Max Sport Bunny ending up fainting and that like the message which is quite very basic like the GMAX company that means like in the scenario that I'm about I'm train right now. So like the main of the train right now is for like Leon of the left right now down to like the last for the like Leon like of the fifth self and I sitting on the because Leon right now telling that like he's done so with Leon so far. That supposed to be only Leon's like fake acting and the show that like Leon will be only to take to in front of like because the like that dialogue from Leon will be looking meant for like the crowds to like totally to once again for Leon's corporate and attempt to like protect his like image as like undefeated great undefeated champion in front of like the crowd. While in actuality deep down right now it's like Leon will totally extremely insecure and extremely afraid of like totally having his like ultimate title of like undefeated champion getting thoroughly crushed and destroyed by Ash and Leon totally in the like using all of his like fan following and like all of that we ending up turning into like fan, all of Leon's fans ending up turning into fans of like the new ultimate champion that was like far even stronger than Leon. As like we thoroughly was like absolute fear, massive fear within like Leon will literally struggling to like hide in front of and like audience and that's so like when the premise is that even while Leon was saying all this dialogue as like Ash has like done well and that like Leon was like only giving us credit for having done well and pushing Leon so far, like deep down, like Leon will be only consumed by that fear of that only, like and that thing they losing to Ash right now. It's definitely against like Ash Pikachu, like Leon, like is for one chapter, like and that thing they losing to like Ash Pikachu, and that when Leon having to face that embarrassing defeat would be that absolute fear that like Leon would be hit down, getting consumed with, which like Leon the Rhino right might be the case in the right now. And also the feeling of the premises for like Leon right now the only thing that it is like Leon's battle again as like Leon's bad performance again like battle against Ash even after resulting like Ash for like the most part of like the battle against like Leon had maintained like the lead and basically that itself being such a huge embarrassment to like the great undefeated champion image that Leon has this would be also along the line like Leon will be getting the like since like the match between like Leon and Ash wasn't like a total wasn't from Leon's point of view, Leon wouldn't be totally think that as like not sort of being like a toe-to-toe battle like where like basically Leon and Ash had basically like were like the through their performance were like almost equal until like the very end and then since, like it and like it being a scenario where like Ash just barely managed to like defeat Leon and basically like Leon that even if that would be along the lines Leon sitting like even if Leon loses to Ash like since like so far like in that Leon's battle performance against Ash like it was mainly Ash that was like maintaining that the lead and the fact that it was only I think that was like a level that sort of that like Leon could even spread out his way into like turning things around like so like I'm looking for like even like the bad performance of Leon so far. For example, like in Leon's bad against that would be something that Leon would be probably secretly seeing as like absolutely embarrassing for Leon. So like if like Leon at this point would be even Leon's like Charizard will be right now looking to like actually do that is such a huge reflection of like Leon's like this image that Leon has built up of like being this great strong like undefeated champion if the only well loses to happen such a manner would be that absolute fear would be massive fear that would be with Leon, which like Leon would be afraid, hiding, trying to like hiding from Ash and giving Ash advices and that congratulating Ash on like while congratulating Ash on like pushing Leon so far in his battle and everything. So we might be certainly wrong in the ways that Leon. Okay, so like Leon transition right now with that nice picture right now in the air about launch it's like painting on like Charizard like I'm putting right now for like Leon to like follow like Charizard to use its like flamethrower on like Pikachu like with like the scenario that I'm so like at that point I'm putting like Charizard like unleashing its like powerful flamethrower on like Pikachu and I was putting like Ash to tell Pikachu to like only don't give up and keep going and at that point I was putting like Pikachu that from midair like so he's suffering with its like iron tail and turning that whole like iron tail into like into like a circular like fire spin like that iron tail Pikachu would having such like tail turned into that iron tail to like launch that attack would be like at that point due to like Ash is like Raji and like Pikachu spinning in mid-air and basically like while being consumed by like flamethrower like a Pikachu even while taking the injury with like the absolute will to like not give up like he's sitting on spinning in mid-air and basically turning that flamethrower into like a fire spin contained within like uh, turning into like an iron tail fire spin kind of like an attack and I'm relaxing to that way like landing onto like Leon's like sharp up like the scenario landing that iron tail and like that flames of like that sharp up on flamethrower in a combined manner on doing that and Leon starts out as like the scenario that happened, and that doing significant extent of like damage to that Leon starts out of like the scenario that happened, right? Also like nothing even with the answer right now with like starts out right now taking it to the skies and basically launching air slash onto like Pikachu on the right side. Like I'm looking right now for like absolutely little Pikachu to like use quick attack and basically I'm looking using Pikachu's quick attack like Pikachu dodging like the air slash multiple air slash of like attack of like starts out one by one and basically I'm looking that like Pikachu totally actually having Pikachu to like jump and basically like dodging like multiple air like and basically that way while charging towards like Chapter who be meta like I'm going to at that point like okay after dodging all these multiple hits like Pikachu probably jumping and probably getting close to with that jump like after Pikachu with that speed like we're getting so close to like the Chapter at that point you said the now that I'm putting and at that point I'm going to like that's totally so anyway ordering like Pikachu to like boost that powerful thunderbolt attack which will be totally landing a direct hit on like Leon's chapter. At that point, I'm remembering that Leon not being able to like, put Leon like chapter not being able to like, put anything to like launch that like some of the like of like scenario that I'm able to know the body. So like that way that Leon's chapter taking that direct hit from like about to some about the like of like and just like the scenario that I'm able to connect. and I'm still prepping for like still Leon stuff being tough enough to like still keep going. There's like playing good scenario that I'm doing. Yeah, like throw back that from the one that like Leon stuff taking even more of like a certain extent of like injury, just like things and damage and the speed of like playing good scenario that I'm doing. Also, like the minimum information right now as for like Java right now from mid like like for fire blast also that it is like I'm looking right now for like scenario to be like right now it's like I'm doing the fire blast would be like to be making it towards like it will be and like I'm like fire blast landing on to like the ground and I'm like they are being that huge smoke of dust at that point fabric at that point is like the scenario that I'm so like in Leon as well as Java digital or contemplating that like we give the fire blast attack had darkly land exactly landed on that pretty good and might have maybe even taken off pretty good here on the night like Java and beyond the off on the thing. But like at that point is when I was going like from within like the smoke of like stuff like I'm thinking like Pikachu probably emerging and jumping out of it and would be like jumping and like the moment Pikachu would be jumping like Pikachu straight away jumping so high and would be getting at like such speed as close range to that you know starts after that what is like the scenario that I'm thinking. Because like I'm thinking like scenario to be like right at that very last second last like but might have been about to land on Pikachu like I'm thinking like the scenario to be like Pikachu managing to like still dodge that look like the scenario that I'm so like that way complex that are more complex the fire class like we need to immerse it and basically instantly like through such an unexpected scenario for like Leon and his like chapter of like what I'm looking so that the moment Pikachu will be emerging out of that smoke like it will be at like seriously close range to like Leon's chapter when chapter will be only having like suddenly having to like guard down to like in, from that close range like Pikachu using his like powerful thunderbolt attack and from that close range and that like does a lot of damage to that Leon's chapter or like the scenario that I'm looking right now. Okay, so like let me my presentation right now as for like as Pikachu like using another fanpage and basically Leon right now ordering to like jobs like take that take like I'm very like Leon's strategy right now but I'm using most likely due to like Pikachu being so extremely fast like and like Leon's strategy will be to like launch a ultimate of attack uh through that yeah by capture Pikachu because like Leon because like Pikachu so fast like I'm saying like capturing Pikachu will be like without using such a strategy would be something that Leon would be totally thing that would be not possible at all. So there I'm like Leon looking so like this is what I'm considering. So like right now I'm looking like as Pikachu landing like that I take apparently on Leon's charter head and I'm considering that Leon's charter like would be taking like would be totally shaking off that Iron Tail, but at the same time is it quickly capture it like as Pikachu at that point is like the scenario that I was bringing. And Leon at that point is straight away ordering his like Charizard to like take it to the sky and basically and Leon straight away telling Charizard to move right from to like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm feeling like maybe as you've been getting that whole deja vu kind of like a feeling of like at one having the chapter and like the toss of that chapter being such an ultimate some kind of like an attack of like as like I'm the super link. So that's like scenario that approach. So like Leon chapter like grabbing hold to like catch Pikachu and I'm looking like at that point like and you'll be like doing that for maybe circling in like mid air. But like as Pikachu before like Leon chapter would be like about like rushing and jump towards like the ground to like fully execute like that such of attack. So like this entire time like I'm looking like while Leon chapter will be grabbing hold tightly to like as Pikachu like I'm looking like at telling already like Pikachu like keep using it's like thunderbolt attack like but like I'm doing regardless of how much like Pikachu would be using repeatedly using its like thunderbolt attack like I'm doing like your Samsung being so tough that I'm like it is still resisting like the damage from like the not resisting but like even while taking a lot of like damage from like the thunderbolt attack of like as Pikachu your Samsung will be still keeping on going and will be taking it flying more into like sky and like would be start taking doing that for stuff taking like the sky and throughout the entire time like continuously like basically like using its like counterpart and then like the scenario to be like actually be totally getting spent and just at that point especially due to like as knowing how powerful like self like the of attack is like I'm referring to believe due to like as will having a chance on in like the market so like I'm doing as like more than just like take it to like it's like absolute everything in like to come forward as like chance by holding on to that to be charming and almost making it towards like the ground to let go of Pikachu. So like until that very last second, I'm not sure, like Pikachu that unleashing all the thunderbolt can, but like I'm doing that, and I'm looking like at that point, at that point I was doing like chapter as well as like Pikachu getting so close to like the ground. and like I'm looking at that point itself like the sound, a huge sound of like crashing happening and this instantly like huge dust smoke like uh covering four charts after when I pick it to that is like the scenario that I would so like at that point both Ashes will Leon Victor is out and won't be knowing as like what had happened at that middle of like so like the battle and that the battle field will be like the job of the battle will be covered by this like huge dust smoke of like intense fighting to the ground. That's what I've happened. So that point is like the scenario that I'm for one like set of clear like I'm sitting like the scenario to be like them both getting the biggest shot in surprise with like as Pikachu only standing on the ground with like being thrown on like the ground while Leon starts would be totally like would be in like a fainted like a kind of like a state onto the ground because like onto the thing like that for the smoke which would have arise at that point due to the crashing would be from like the crashing of like Leon starts up onto like the ground because like I'm looking like the collective exhaustion of like starts up that performance so far in like the battle as well as like that iron face on Shigelu that like Leon right now ordering like starts to like take the hit like that as well would have activate on so much of damage, and that coupled with that as to fundamental emission scenario being like as that's probably continuously using its like counterparts on like Leon chapter as like it will be probably executing it like in the process of executing it's like that's of attack like all this collectively what you are setting in that Leon might have about as it will be about to finish its like such a stuff attack like I'm putting like in Leon probably so Leon's like chapter probably finding something to like the collective extreme process and they look at resulting in like right at like Java will be about to finally execute that inside the toss and like will be about to throw Pikachu onto that striking onto like the ground like and looking at that with last second like Java totally ending up giving into like the Johnson and that making it forward for that Pikachu to like escape from like the cycle of at that very last second. And that resulting in like instead of Pikachu Charizard that being the one to like to do that extraction like being the one to like to come crashing onto like the ground and that being how we like sort of move that will be surrounding the ground would be happening at that point about all this like Leon like and as of India realizing that the moment that the smoke clears and the temperatures in that Pikachu standing onto the ground while standing on the ground and they while Charizard within like a painted kind of like space once like set of snow is like the limited scenario that I'm but in that way like Ash defeated Leon that is that happening to such a manner of like the input scenario that I was doing about the range. So like the minimum range right now the for like none of the like Charizard like plus low like Pikachu like from the four and other like Pikachu from the post now being able to like make it in time like I'm going to find up the first like four plus clouds like appearing like I'm looking right now for like the scenario to be like what happened beneath like the clouds might be like Pikachu is like Thunderbolt by not being able to like make it in time like that exactly might have been what might have happened so like Pikachu might have been swallowed by like might have gotten consumed and injured by like the extremely powerful like blast that job had. But even while getting hit and they getting badly injured, like I'm looking right now, Pikachu's like HP would be like almost about to be over. Like Pikachu right now would be on like the verge of like fading. So like I'm looking once like set of cloud would be that clearing up that I'm looking like what Ash and Leon would be witnessing would be that Leon as well as Charizard would be totally more conflicting that really so with that fire blast landing on the like Pikachu definitely once like the cloud of the players like what they will be witnessing will be like faint Pikachu, but like I'm and that as well might be what like I just tell would be made slightly clearing, but like I'm putting like to all of the surprise like I'm putting like once like the players like I'm putting like the scenario to be like a badly injured Pikachu from like that extreme injury of like of like that fire blast like being adapted landing adapted on like Pikachu might be the so like a badly injured Pikachu still would be like still would have not let go of its like preparation of its like ultimate counterpart attack, even at that point of like the scenario that I was. So like once like sort of clear like at that point of Leon as well as like Charizard to be like an unguarded state would be having that guard down. But due to their overconfidence taking people might have gotten injured by now. So like Ash totally taking advantage of that by Ash and Pikachu totally taking advantage of such a situation. But like once like the cloud players like at that point is when able from like Ash and seeing how Pikachu still has its like counterpart preparation with it like as straight away often with like Pikachu's badly injured Pikachu like straight away launch and send out that ultimate counterpart attack. Which like Pikachu under that point will be like charging up and intensifying while hidden within that cloud of the universe. So like once like this cloud clears like an intense like from the that Pikachu launch it onto like the unguarded Charizard, which would be what like I'm made that intensity of that comfort board and the thing to be so extreme that I'm definitely uh, using that comfort board like as to that liquidity that Leon's like Charizard, just like Bruce and Veteran. But like I'm suddenly even after getting spiked by like that powerful comfort board like I'm thinking like the scenario to be like Leon's Charizard team badly injured as well. But like Leon's Charizard will still won't be crashing onto like the ground, but still would be like after like taking that massive injury like I'm doing like Leon's Charizard like standing on to left ground like scenario. And at that point, I'm trying like the scenario being like situation appearing to like the crowd and to everyone else. Like it's like Leon like Charizard still have managed to like survive that part to come forward. And like as Pikachu on the other hand would be like 10 years of like uh as Pikachu like struggling to like keep up in its like standing position and keep going. So like I'm looking like at that point like Leon would be having that smile on his face and like Charizard as well would be having that smile on his face. And I'm looking like at that point I'm looking like all of them like Leon's Charizard like okay unexpectedly fainting and falling to the ground and like fainting. That's like the scenario that I'm like while Ash Pikachu is still struggling his way into like still barely hanging on. It's like the and with the still standing with all that injuries and explosions, he's still barely hanging on. And that's why it's like the scenario that I'm in that way, like I'm doing like actually declared as like the new champion is like the scenario that I'm like, so, like at that point is when I'm thinking after that declaration will be happening by the referee. Like at that point is when I was thinking like the moment Pikachu will be holding on to that until that point for like that declaration to happen. So like the moment like referee is making that declaration, like at that point is when I was going to be only that person would be like people won't be able to like hang on at that point and basically like that's sort of Pikachu at that point succumbing to like that sort of like instantly fainting the moment like the declaration of that as like the new champion will be happening that person after that and Ash at that point is like totally running towards like Pikachu and like holding Pikachu to like arms and basically totally like would be like telling Pikachu that is so proud of Pikachu and not just Pikachu but like all of like Ash's Pokemon like listen after that so maybe I'm the people like at that point like as even like would be so extremely awkward and happy with that achievement of like becoming finally making it and finally making it like making it and seizing that title of being like the champion like strong player of like the world I basically at that point, I'm different maybe at even sending out, calling out all of the like as he may not giving like the focus and attention to his like Pikachu alone because of like it's not being like Pikachu's efforts alone that has guaranteed at like pretty much like the combined efforts of all like the remaining five Pokemon plus the current remaining five Pokemon of Hatch skills. So like it has totally not doing such a one-sided thing and giving all that attention to like Pikachu alone, but like I'm sort of at that point, it's just like the moment at that point, in that moment itself, again, so we bringing out and calling out all of the Black remaining five points, and basically telling all of them that he's proud of each and every single one of them, their performance and about them and all that, like, and about their growth and everything, all that, and different, like, that is like really the scenario that I was like, and my engineer. And also at that point, I'm looking like a badly embarrassed and the point beyond, like, I'm looking like would be still looking at just like Charizard would be at that point having just like massive user representation. At that point would be like comparing just like Charizard and would be telling just like Charizard that he's like still proud of him. Like the scenario that I'm looking and at that point I'm looking like the majority of like audience in like stadium will be shocked and like I'm looking like the audience not being anything. The majority of the audience in like products that uses like the fight itself is taking place in like regular region at like Windows Stadium and still like Leon is that as the champion of like regular region like the crowd will be that the crowd in the stadium would be that the captain would be that as a fan of like Leon Leon Brain. So like at that point I was like the crowd voting and that shock getting angry towards like Ash for like even defeating Leon is also like a particular that I'm putting in. Ash crowd totally booing Ash at that point once like the declaration of Ash as like the new champion would be done by the players. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. And I'm just like while this would be happening, I'm just like Leon at that point. It's like a serious stage like I'm be shouting out to like the audience to totally accept Ash as like the champion. That is telling the audience that like Leon had gave it just like everything and still lost to Ash because like Ash simply was like stronger than Leon and basically that Leon has accepted that and for like Leon telling shouting out to like crowd as well to like Leon to like accept that like the scenario that awesome. But like even by saying this like Leon would be still for me would be having that hope that basically still since like Leon had the opportunity to release all three gimmicks of every move Mega Evolution as well as like Dragonite since that even by exactly like has Leon as well had the opportunity and like Leon had Leon would have definitely Leon still consciously not using it would be considering this like worst case scenario that Leon might lose the patch. Make my difference. But like Leon deep down would be still holding on to that hope that is even while saying all this to like the audience still that the audience would be like still Leon might be a like a retain to a certain extent of the black fans even at that point because like the fans will be most likely making the excuse that like it was only due to like Leon not using all three of the black units like it's only like Leon using only one of the black limits in his like battle against who had used all three games that like that team it's always for like actually being able to like to be Leon and that way like Leon will only hoping that like a great extent of his like fans would be like making using that as like an excuse to like still keep Leon following Leon even if like Leon would have lost his like championship title. It's like the just scenario that I'm always bringing up the also like looking at for instance right now as for like even while Leon starts sort of like standing like as a ticket to that perfect point and saying it and then we even seen like as like Gen 1 Pokemon thing like right now I'm looking at that me could be like due to that painting and due to that sadness and things like could be at that point might have briefly wouldn't be like Pikachu streaming but like Pikachu might have maybe access like some sort of like briefly access like some sort of like dimensions where like Pikachu might be able to like see like might have been able to like connect briefly with like the all of like anti like Gen what thing is like the scenario and witness like all of them and basically maybe at that point like them as well might have been able to like I'm just right now for scenario to be like them as well being able to like sense like Pikachu or remotely being able to like sense that is like the also like the possibility that I'm right and that will like them like as like Gen 1 or Gen 1 team like was cheering Pikachu on like and then like at that point I was going like with them cheering Pikachu on like Pikachu slowly coming back out of the like painted stage back to like the battlefield exactly as like the referee will be about to declare like Leon as like the winner at that very last second. Is when I was playing that Pikachu would be once again getting back up from its like painted stage is like the scenario that I'm moving and that way to return back to like the battlefield and the moment Pikachu will be returning back like I'm like with like Pikachu scene like as like Gen 1 team that and that another thing maybe it being a scenario where like it just won't be just saying like I just like Gen 1 thing I don't like it. But like in that dream like state like it won't be actually a dream but like it should be like it should be like remotely see the accessing actually that to do that actually accessing some dimension and basically remotely being able to like see not only like the Gen 1 thing of like Pokemon thing of that but like all the generations that team of Pokemon of since like Gen 1 leading to like the person like all of them for me. Even like the current remaining five team members Pokemon team of that had in their Pokeball as well, like only cheering Pikachu on like basically Pikachu in that dream like state like being able to like spend and see all of them like Pokemon rotate and cheering for like Pikachu and telling Pikachu to like get up that like Pikachu can do like so like that way like I'm sorry Pikachu that like the scenario that I'm looking at right now so happen so like I'm looking that way like Pikachu that being how like Pikachu will be getting that absolute boost of confidence that Pikachu is that and that moral good when like Pikachu is getting straight away running out of its like painted like state by just like the referee would be about to declare like Leonas like the winner like that very last against Pikachu returning back from its like painted like state and straight away with that absolute in an absolute enrage and like confident manner like Pikachu that using up all of its like remaining power and strength on its like final thunderbolt attack which would be like at that point Charizard would be and Leon would be having their guard down and would be totally would be letting that they have already won that the battle and that against that and like they will be having their guard down and so like that when the moment Pikachu will be going back from this like stranger stage into like the battle but at that point straight away like I'm putting without any delay at all like it will be like no like ultimate thunderbolt attack on Charizard who will be having like guard down like the scenario that after so like Charizard that way taking that hit from that thing in depth like thunderbolt attack and then Charizard ending up paying from it that the scenario that I was going to correct and my survivors. So like after that thunderbolt attack like I'm like Charizard still like standing there only not moving but like I'm doing like all of them like starts trying to like overcome like the damage of like that final bottom that is but like still starts are not being able to find like when starts are even after that attack will be standing like pretty like starts are probably falling onto like, the ground and failing to like the scenario that about that in how like have will be defeating Leon's like the scenario that I'm looking right now also that Leon's redemption right now as well like right now getting up with that absolute intensity and seriousness in its face covered by electric aura and like Leon telling Ash that just like Ash and Pikachu that he was waiting for like number the definitely considering the map of friends, especially with like that battle performance of Leon itself, the great and repeated champion Leon itself against like Ash in this like battle itself from beginning itself, mainly even being like at mostly dominating like the battle and always like having certain extent of like a lead over like maintaining that lead over like Leon, and maintaining that lead over Leon for the great undefeated champion Leon to a great extent all throughout like the battlefield mostly. And on top of that, like with like Leon, the Pikachu who had like right now aura and appears to be painted like getting up with that like aura and that approach in the face and intensity. Right now, considering like for Leon to like right now at this moment, like say that this is like and Pikachu like he was waiting for like that would be such an absolute fake attack from Leon, quite face down Leon would be might have been finally felt Leon deep down might have had that absolute especially with like Leon even spotting out before even just like that like in accident began like everything like Leon might have had that absolute fear of it about which like undefeated champion practice on like all that getting crushed and destroyed for by that in this battle. Just because the battle went into it. So like I'm thinking that even with like Leon's battles, that might not only affect that fear might not only affect like Leon's battles performance against like Ash and that way Leon in this like battle against Ash might have not even been able to like perform according to like that actual standards of like Leon's like performance. Which had earned him the title of being the strategist and it might have been what might have happened to Leon so like that might have been what might have even made it possible for like Ash to even mostly maintain that lead over like Leon through the progress of like the Ash with Leon battle mostly for Ash. It's also definitely my favorite. So like this very same Leon like I'm afraid like definitely might be consumed by that atmosphere present and to be like necessarily trying to like quickly Ash while on the outside putting on the fake as a like Leon's like probably impressed with like Ash performance and like Leon congratulating Ash for like pushing Leon to the spot as if like Leon is like far even stronger than Ash. Like something Leon while laid down like fearing the water just losing to Ash like Leon on the outside will be only putting on the fake acting as if like Ash's like performance is like managed to like impress Leon while Leon's performance itself was like totally like uh, had resulted in like Ash mostly having the lead over like Leon mostly throughout like the Ash's Leon battle. So that's Leon right now to the very end of like the battle right now with like Pikachu having fallen down and appearing to be failing, and with like the referee even showing up to like declare Leon as like the winner, and basically right now with that very same Pikachu with that absolute seriousness and intensity getting up and being covered by that never before seen electric aura, and like for Leon to right now tell as that like the Ash and Pikachu that Leon is waiting for a big down, Leon would be like only remix with that absolute fear of like the possibility of like right now being that moment that like Leon might have driven of like the possibility of like and like Pikachu crashing and defeating and at this point Leon and his Charizard and their absolute undefeated teammates as well will be like it will be at this moment that Leon will be feeling that absolute fear to the extreme right now, which Leon will be definitely trying to hide by right now telling that like music like the action because that he was like waiting for might be the case definitely not forget. Okay, so like the Michael Emerson right now with that absolute final showdown clash between that Leon like ultimate part like like has like it is like ultimate on the board and right now instantly like Pikachu breaking up, losing consciousness and waking up right now. I'm going to bring that definitely what might have happened. I'm definitely going to bring for like what might have happened would be like after that clash of like, that intense clash and like that intense on the board like what might have happened might have been that that after that clash like both Charizard as well as like has Pikachu standing but that has the injuries like after that attack like the both Charizard as well as Pikachu would be that probably having the escape path window and then barely managing to like stand at that point. Might have been what might have happened, and like then like one of them like Jones might have succumbed to like the injuries and like the person might has to might have kept on holding on, and like the moment like the referee might have declared and like Ashen like it was like the winner and Ashen like the champion. At that point, the time like Pikachu as well might have instantly fainted, might have been what might have happened, and like Pikachu might have lost all memory of that, and like after like losing consciousness, like it might be right now like that Pikachu might have came back to like consciousness and might have woke up in front of Ash in like the Pokemon Center. So this might be what might have happened right now. The real incident. So like Pikachu might not right now might not remember as to like what exactly happened. Whether like Pikachu had of like the defeat of like and by the social like Pikachu might be right now here. So like Pikachu might right now won't be able to like remember what exactly happened at that very last moment of like the battle. So right now I'm looking like at totally telling Pikachu like I'm looking right now like right beside Pikachu there will be all the remaining five Pokemon of that as well. And like them all would be like totally like cheering Pikachu and congratulating Pikachu. So like at that point like at telling Pikachu as to like what happened and at that point I'm looking like Pikachu, that while I should be telling what happened to that Pikachu. At that point is when I was like that showdown scenario being revealed where like Pikachu would defeat like Chakra. It's like the scenario that happened. And it's being only at that point what had to be telling Pikachu that Pikachu would be even realizing that way. So Pikachu still had totally man, even with that extreme situation, Pikachu still had managed to hold on until granting that victory to Ash over Leon and Charizard. So the along the lines, Pikachu only at that point would be from like that Pokemon and like that Pikachu only at that point would be even realizing that at that point is like the scenario. At that point, like Pikachu probably being on like the scenario that okay, so like definitely now the reaction right now the Black Ash finally defeating Fiona to become like champion. But like I'm doing right now the team times or like the award ceremony I'm doing right now while like all of like Ash's like travel partners about like all would be like glued to like the TV screen waiting for that moment which like Ash had been like so far like totally determined in the end like that really was like looking forward to that to be that to reach like that position of like become that ultimate Pokemon champion like in the league, while all of like has like freestyle partners, all of them will be close to like the screen to like witness as being crowned as like the champion, like the official champion, and the strong screen like I'm looking that at that point I'm looking like them all getting like the legal stuff right with like for like awards or money like I'm only putting like and a little bit only missing and like just enough that I'm correct. So like as once it even showing up to like the awards ceremony and as we will be sneaking out of like that window steering set before right before like the awards ceremony. It's like the scenario that I was correct because like I'm looking for Ash if like Ash's goal might have like, not been that the recognition of like the award ceremony or like the publicity or like the fame for Ash what might have been the Ash ultimate goal might have been just for like Ash's own like personal satisfaction for Ash to become like the strongest team, the trainer to be like the ultimate champion like you see that to reach that level that for Ash to reach that level for Ash's own personal satisfaction and that feeling of achievement for Ash that would be like the only thing that Ash might have desired and set up as his like ultimate goal. Him from like the very beginning to of like as his journey to like to even to like the present. That's definitely my book right. So like Ash for right now in like the present like even the award ceremony would be something that like Ash would be like seeing as like not at all nowhere near important at all when compared to Ash being there for like go in like to support go and cheer go on in like those that first new mission. Would be along the lines like the way Ash would be seeing things definitely might be the case definitely well for it. So like that way like I'm sort of like Ash totally keeping like the as like official champion crowning award ceremony to like cheer on go for like both like for people units if like living the scenario that I do like and memory. So that way like the award ceremony is still happening even with even in absent like I'm afraid like the award ceremony is still happening with like Ash picture being shown on like the screen in like Windows Stadium and while like the crown would be placed onto like a pedestal or something and like that way understanding how like I'm even in absence like as would be crowned in front of as like the official ultimate new champion of and on a train up in front of that the rest of like the world would be watching through live television and so like the internet and everything is definitely my good friend. So this how I'm different like as would be crowned as like that new champion is like in front of like the rest of the world like even the scenario that have to be told about like and the correction and then seeing that like I'm turning like all of like as it's like the majority of like as it's like ex travel partners like all of them being towards really disappointed but like I'm turning some of them would be totally also would be saying that like that is so at with like even just scenario that I'm the correct. So definitely anyway like they will all be totally be feeling proud and happy for like and for like to have been trial partners of and to have played like roles and their roles in like the journey of Ash which has like usually right now resulted in eventually resulted in like Ash finding achieving his goal. That's definitely my contribution. Definitely Ash is like achievement of like becoming champion at that point while they will be seeing all that through like the life feel like I'm currently seeing even more of like a motivation for like or each and every single one of like as like ex travel partners as well as for like Chloe as well and like those as examples and like go will be probably the same in lecture for so like go might have not even realize that like the progress that Ash has made. So definitely my Pinterest ambitious. So like except for go like all the remaining trial partners of Ash and ex-trial partners of Ash. Like all of them would be seeing as seizing that achieving his goal as like that absolute motivation for each and every single one of them to like work even harder into like trying to like achieve their goals as well. It's definitely like the scenario that I'm bringing. Okay, so like the minimum potential right now, that's the like the next day after the Ash becoming the champion, like yeah, those like incoming for Ash. Like I'm preferring like would be most likely to congratulate Ash because like first of all preferring right now that like go would be right now calling Ash to congratulate Ash on becoming the champion even while go would be like totally unaware of like might I know look it up as to like who ended up being becoming like the winner of like the final championship that between that Ash and Leon. It would be definitely something to maybe cheer back up to cheer it is like confidence that Go would be having on at that basically for like has to definitely be able to replicate Leon the next time with that like I'm going to right now calling as and will be straight away congratulating as for that absolute confidence on becoming a champion without Go having looked up any of like the results of like the championship that is like the scenario that I'm looking right now. So like I'm just like Ash totally thanking Go at that point. And then we like after that for and during that interaction I'm like also telling revealing the crucial details to Ash and I'm going that is a detail and then most likely would be that like go and his like safer team has like they spotted new would be that like crucial news that like I'm like so will be right now rooms like a phone call will be telling us like the scenarios that I'm like so like I'm like scenario with like the situation is like go and the second half of the safer team would be like they might have seen news, but like even after seeing news, that news might have still escaped from their side. Might have been what might have happened. So like I'm still looking go and his like the team would be absolutely confident that like basically because like for example even they might be in like some deep parts of that somewhere in like the world. So like they will be totally having that belief in like there and that team will be having that first team will be has that absolute belief that they keep chasing after like the direction you went like basically in that spot like they might eventually find you would be along with the lines on the running line the protein team would be believing at that point the elementary so like the protein will be like I'm thinking probably will be strongly getting that feeling that like this is currently this that like that cost might be like the current phase for like you so like if they keep chasing after like new impacts that have escaped from them like basically they might probably be able to like find new and have that ultimate rain battle and might even be able to like that way can be along the lines like the ultimate team which we're talking to right now settling us so like to congratulate at on the champion as well as to like inform that about like so after like such a long time finally once again genius having been able to like see news and that way being so close to like capture those achieving those ultimate goals like capturing those to like tell this to like have to be the reason for like goals right now calling Ash definitely my interest. So like the moment Ash to be had up also pressing like once like so like the consumer preference so like even after seeing you like I'm going to an approach new team that's still heading the exact direction where like you might have in that path that you might have escaped from the scenario that I'm looking at. At that point I was like without and when they would be like going through like that exact direction in like the pop sense of for me like I'm like instead of you eventually then thought you're running into crazy gaps is like the scenario where I was playing and I'm still remembering that like that had an array that against like Ridiculous in which like the PO as well as like Gary as well as like the other the main say senior chasers like all of them would be like one bit like that raid bad and then go for those easily messing up with that raid bad in terms of both performance and would be totally getting scolded and blamed by the senior chasers like the scenario that I'm referring. And I'm looking like it would definitely be Gary that would be like a direction like capturing. So you could just throw that way better than like the scenario that I was thinking. While both would be like that only chaser would be like perform CC the worst among all the performances like the scenario that I'm expecting. So like I'm looking that to happen. And I'm just like it would be during this time that I'm specifically the manufacturing mention that like after that saving post for that like don't be most likely going to manufacturing will be revealing the hash of that once again having seen news. Like I'm looking at that point that the catch will be like only getting up to invite with our exhausted from that the whole championship battle and everything like I'm still straight away getting up and like straight away rushing off to that location where like would be to like see around go like the scenario that I'm doing. But like I'm doing by the time actually making it towards like go at that point what I could be witnessing would be that go that performing in a poor manner totally messing up and that's exactly performing in like a four man of in like that raid battle against like Regigigas and Gary capturing like the Regigigas and that they getting like earning all the praise from like the senior chasers and like the year and all that like the scenario. This will be what like I'm looking like Ash will be witnessing on by the time Ash will be making towards like go in that form to like the scenario that I so like go will be probably sad and disappointed at that point and would be like losing his like whole confidence and morale at that point. But like I'm saying at that point has streamed that absolute good friend being there for both and being that absolute good friend who would be like only given that absolute confidence to as it was and like as it was to which actually telling goals to like not give up in when in situations of like setback and for both to like keep going on and it was that those like had to not give up that shot that had gotten so this far into even being one of like the chase, reaching like the seating like the position of being one of like the chase and getting this far. Will get on the line something like I feel that absolute confidence to go and I cheer on you and just that like with that confidence like I should be giving go like I'm sorry like go still not giving up and like totally and then like after continuing on their journey and like after that like injury like I'm second running into like the main phase of like new within that skill spot where like I'm looking at that point like you would be having that brain bed with like all the table like the scenario that I'm looking. So like in that like I'm going to finally go be able to like perform even far better than like even like Billy or like even and better than Gary or like senior chasers like I can go performing even better than all of them. And that way like I'm going to perform with either that way that maybe it being possibly being like either those like most likely I'm going to be either those like swap running or just like something more good in being like those that would be the final Pokemon. I mean, three Pokemon is what I'm looking for in that. For like I'm doing there won't be any limits that will be being set. Like they will all be using all of their Pokemon to like all the chasers will be using all of their Pokemon to repeatedly once like each of like the Pokemon will be taken out by like all the needs. But like I'm putting like finally I'm looking like them all the other chasers like in that raid battle like all coming down to like their last Pokemon. And like finally eventually like them all even having like the final Pokemon as the training by the offense kind of while go head on at that point would be having his like last Pokemon head of so like that way finally the rain battle ending up with like it's battle between like Go versus Singing was entirely almost like against like New and like in that battle like I'm just like really most likely I'm leaning more to the possibility of like New even defeating was Inteleon. But like but still that New possibly would be still seeing Go as like a deserving one and you would be taking quite liking towards Go as well, seeing that Go alone like stand out in terms of performance and everything, and that passion of Go, which like would be far greater than like the passion of like all the other first new members like I'm different to like capture like I'm doing that you will be able to sense that and that way like I'm doing new letting itself like new like totally like getting close towards like the more close towards like Go and basically standing right next to Go and basically allowing Go that way to like capture me. It's like the more likely possibility that I'm doing. Or like the very less likely possibility that I'm doing for like towards the end of like the raid battle that really it being that Go and just like Inteleon alone being like the only Pokemon remaining. And then like Inteleon struggling this way. But at that way by Go and just like Inteleon will be fighting off against like new or who might be so that raid battle which number then maybe not having any limits so like with like everyone using all of their Pokemon in their party like I'm going like an injury that even though you will be taking out each and every one of the Pokemon in like the raid battle still like new or fine getting exhausted. So like finally that I'm going like the badly exhausted Mew versus like the badly injured and exhausted Inteleon fight happening. And like at that point, like Gary, Tokyo, as well as the leader and then seeing a product new members like all things without having with have that with them not having more of their Pokemon training and like and with them all being forced to like witness like course like that performance experience like superior battle performance experience like new. And that way goes and they not finally struggling its way to like manage it like or and defeat new. It's like the still Japanese like we got into that like, and that way like that way go like throwing like the Pokeball and managing to like even with like a single Pokeball like and even like single Pokeball like and not even a Master Ball like and like it's like how go has got all this like legendary Pokemon so far with just Pokeball like and from the scenario or like go at that point was Inteleon finally defeating struggling its way to like finally defeating you and basically at that point go throwing like the Pokeball and capturing it to like changing the scenario that I'm and multiple copies scenario that I'm